Welcome back to All That Jam, where music has no limits. I'm joined by Dave from Organ Fairchild today. He is their guitarist, and you guys have become a force in the jam band scene over the last few years. How are you doing, Dave?
Oh man, doing great. It's great to catch up with you again, Kevin, and thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yes, fantastic. This is your third time joining us, so I guess that makes you a lifer.
All
Um,
right.
we we spoke in January and May of last year. Since then, you did a tour where you did a set of Dead tunes. You released an album, Leisure Suit, which was your second album, I believe, and now we're on to
Yep.
album three.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Since we last talked, that second record came out. It was the first, so it was our second full length record. It's called Leisure Suit. It came out last fall, and it's the first one where we went elsewhere to record. So for our debut album, we recorded in Corey's basement, our drummer. So for the second album, we went to Justin Gleep, who is a drummer and an engineer. He worked on Levon Helm's Grammy winning albums, and he most recently played drums in the electric version of Hot Tuna. But he's just an amazing engineer. So we went to him on a recommendation of another Buffalo musician, and we just were just thrilled with the way that Leisure Suit album came out. So that came out last fall, and you know, to our great surprise and delight, 8 months later, it's still on the RelicsJamBands.com radio charts, um, which
It was
was
number one. It was number one again recently, wasn't it?
staggering to us. It never got to number one. It got as high as number two out of 30. So this is radio stations around the country that play jam band music. They report into Relics, I guess. And no, but it's been consistently in the top 15. And again, like here we are sitting 7, 8 months later. And, you know, the bands that were above on the chart are, it's kind of hilarious. I mean, the Rolling Stones are below us. Not that they're a jam band,
Right.
but Goose and Dave Matthews Band, it's just incredible to us. So um, uh, super appreciative of all the DJs around the country that have been continuing to play it.
All right. There's something to be said for the organ trio format. I'm a huge fan of it, both maybe economically for being a band on the road, you only have three people, but the sound of it, it leaves so much space for each of the members while also containing it because your ears only have to pay attention to three things,
That's
basically.
right. Yeah, well, yeah, or four. I mean, really, the keyboard player has the hardest job because he's playing two roles. You know, he
Right.
plays bass
Right.
bass with the left hand on the keyboards, and yeah, on a good day, there's space to hear everybody. I mean, sometimes sometimes we uh, we fill in every nook and cranny that's possible somehow. But yeah, we get comments often because it's an old jazz format, but we approach it more like a rock band. So we do get comments sometimes like, "I just can't believe how much sound is coming from three guys." You know.
Right. When I was 13, my favorite band was The Doors, and they were basically an organ trio with a singer,
That's
you
right. That's
know?
exactly
So
right. Yep.
it's ingrained in my imagination there.
For sure, it is a super fun format, and you're right. There's a lot of space, and there's a lot of room for if any one of the three of us decides to go in a different direction. It's real easy to pick up on that and veer off on a in left field for a while, so to speak.
Right. It's so 41 years since Wild Nights started?
Yes, can you believe it? Yeah, that's the band the three of us met each other in back in Williamsville, New York, outside of Buffalo when we were all kids. And so the three of us in Oregon Fairchild have known each other that long. It's not that we've played together consistently since then, but yeah, a long time ago.
Simpatico. And I love that 41 years is a long time. And I feel like you guys have embraced something that you probably always wanted, but life gets in the way. You become, you have to be an adult for a long time, but you get to a certain point with the gray hair and you're like, I'm hitting the road.
You know, that's exactly the way it played out. Yeah, I mean, we were all busy doing other things, music, lots of interesting musical things for each of us, but um, it's sort of obviously a late in life development for the three of us. Our Oregon Fairchild started in 2020. Um, And I don't think 10 years ago any of us would have envisioned that the three of us would be driving around in a van to North Carolina or Maine, uh, playing festivals and getting 4 hours of sleep and getting up and going to the next place. We're behaving as if we're half of our age, and loving every minute of it.
We we need to hire a camera. You guys are a reality
I
show
know
waiting to happen.
we really are. I know the late bloomers, right?
I always think back to years ago. I don't know if you remember this. Fan Art Pete did a New York State band battle of the bands, maybe 21, 22, something like that, probably 21. And you guys were in the final against Baked Shrimp and you beat them. And they were like the youngest band in there, and you
That's
guys were
right.
the
I
oldest
know.
band in there.
I know, it's funny, yeah. Yeah, that was this kind of the start of this sort of shockwave that still reverberates through us every once in a while, like, being voted New York's #1 emerging band in 2021. I mean, granted, no bands were really on the road in 2021, but, it was a submission process with videos, and people would watch the videos and vote. Um, yeah, and we've become great friends with the Big Shrimp guys, and following their, now that they're not a band so much anymore,
Jared, yeah,
following what
Jared's out
Jared's up
there
to. Yeah, yep,
working it, working it. They We talked to Jared not too long ago, and I'm glad to
I
see
heard
that
that. Yeah,
he's getting into the other side of it there, which is good.
well, yeah, and like
I
he said,
I
he's
think
he's
he's
been wearing he wears so many hats in that band as it is that he's picked up a lot of skills that he can now ply his trade in.
and he's a young guy, so he has nothing but blue
He
skies
is.
and horizons. And there we are. So you just released another single. You had Leisure Suit, like we were talking about, and I must say it's a fantastic album. You guys
Thank you.
leaned into it. The cover, the promo. You guys are marketing. Let's do the marketing first. You guys are really, really good at social media.
Huh. Okay. Well, thank you.
I mean,
Um,
I always see you on Facebook. You're always engaging with stuff. I feel like that you have a pulse on what that is. Maybe you don't realize it, but I think you do.
I mean, I think it comes down to if there's someone in the group for whom that stuff is fun, and for me, it's fun. I do most of that stuff, and it's fun. I mean, to me, that's part of doing it, and I have actually a degree in marketing. I had a professional job in marketing for about 6 years before I quit to become a full time musician. But that was 30. I've been a full time musician since 1992. Um, but yeah, I think marketing has always been something I'm interested in. I tell my Corey, the drummer, who's a big fisherman, I said it's like fishing. It's like you throw a ton of lines out there and you wait and see what bites and who bites, and I have a riot doing it. So, but I think
Right,
that's the difference between some bands maybe struggle to promote themselves just because there's no one in the band that enjoys it. So I
right.
feel lucky. I feel lucky in that way.
Now, do you look as deep as the analytics that they provide and like
Oh yeah, yep,
the other side
absolutely.
of it? Yeah, we talked to Mark from the Disco Biscuits, and he was saying, he knew exactly what their demographic was.
Ha, interesting. We're still figuring that out for ourselves. I mean, a lot of the crowds we play for are less than half of our age, but then especially locally here in Buffalo, because we've all been playing music here our whole lives. We have a huge uh, support network here of people that are more our age. So you see all ages at our shows here in Western New York. And then as we go further afield, it tends to be younger,
Mhm.
somewhat.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you think I'm completely gonna diverge, we will get to the single in a minute.
Okay.
How do you think the Grateful Dead half set, half show, originals half show worked out for you? Because the last time we talked to you, you were about to go onto that little jaunt.
That's right. So that was last summer, and that was our attempt to get into some new markets that where we were not known. And so we did a set of our own original material and a set of Grateful Dead music. What happened over that 10-day? It was 10 day 10 gigs over 10 days. Is about halfway through we decided to just mesh instead of doing one set of our stuff, one set of Dead. We just made it two sort of combined sets.
Mhm.
It was Corey's idea, and it worked out it worked out even better because, like, I mean, we really enjoy kind of just throwing ourselves off the deep end as we get toward the end of one tune. Like, how are we going to get from here to the next place?
Right.
And so, and there's a lot of good synergy between some of the jamming in some of the Dead tunes, and good opportunities for us to move into some of our stuff and move back and forth. And so the tour ended up being, by the time we got toward the second half of the tour, we were basically just, it was combined sets, and it was super
Right.
fun. Yeah.
Right, and it makes sense. In I always say there's a science, there's an art to writing set list that not everybody appreciates. Um, and
Yeah.
doing that, just you telling me that, I can see where you can have, you open up with a Dead tune, immediately you get everybody into it. So boom, that's the science of that. You have everybody turn their back from their friend and they watch you. Then you go into the right tune of your own and you hook them.
Yeah,
That's
that's
perfect.
exactly what we saw happening. Yeah, and it's they may or not even realize we're into the next tune, which is kind of part of the fun as well.
There you go. Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So Picasso Moon did make the set list, I hear.
it absolutely did. In fact, we played it in Baltimore, but
And somebody
one
didn't
Kevin
show up.
Hogan never
Yeah,
showed up. Yeah,
unbelievable, that guy.
yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the single. I know that you're happy with it and you're excited. What's it called and where can we find it and what's the story?
Okay, so the third album is called Songs We Didn't Write. So it's all other people's music, that we have. We've always had a couple of dozen different, other than Grateful Dead stuff, which we love to play. We've had a couple dozen other sort of covers that we love to sprinkle into our sets. And they kind of all, just by nature of what we do, we don't sing, we don't have a bass player, so they all end up sort of becoming something different once we put our minds to them and get our hands on them. So we really wanted to get back to Justin's to record another album sooner rather than later, and we had all this cover material pretty much at our fingertips. So, and my son was kind of the one that really encouraged me. He said, you guys should do an album of covers. So that's what our new record is. It's all recorded. The first single just came out. It's Bob Marley's "Them Belly Full," which was always a favorite of mine. Um, and again, just sort of, we just put our own spin on it because we kind of can't help but do that, you know.
Right.
Um, and so we recorded it again with Justin, and it's been mastered, just like our other two albums, by Alan Evans of Soul Live. I know you guys talk to Al quite a
Yeah.
bit. I love listening in on those. Um, so yeah, super happy with the way it came out. The whole album will be out on June 7. The first song is out now, and then there'll be one more single coming out in May before the full
And
record.
but you aren't going to tell me the name of it?
Of the next single,
Yeah.
well, it's either, I can tell you, it's either another a Grateful Dead song. Actually, you can go on our the pre-order's already open for the album, so all the tunes are there. I can't quite tell you what the second single is going to be, but there's a Harry Styles song on the record. There's a couple of Grateful Dead songs. There is a Beatles tune, Leonard Cohen. So it'll be one of those.
There you go. There you go. And we will have the links all down in the bottom there.
Oh, great.
So, how do you see the band since it started having progressed?
It's been amazing. I mean, our big focus has been to get to some new places and play for some new people and see how that all goes over. So I think you and I maybe have covered in the past when we've talked the fact that our first gig was a month before COVID, and so we got off to this roaring start, and then everything, you know what happened from there. So it's really just been in the last couple of years that we've been able to get out and travel around again. So in terms of how it's progressing, I mean, great. We're getting to some brand new. We've already sort of had some fun and some success in the Midwest, so we're going back there in May, and then again in the fall. Um, we're getting to New England more this summer. Um, we're getting down south to North Carolina for the first time. We've had a lot of. It's probably the state that we've had the most requests from to come and play. So we've got two dates in Asheville in June, a festival and a club date. Um, and so just the way I see it is we're just continuing to go out there and play for people, and we're really just, whoever shows up, we have a blast
Right.
with them. Hopefully, there's more of them the next time, and it just goes like that.
Take the opportunities as they are given to you there.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. I love it. The the new album is coming out, you said what, in June?
June 7, yeah.
And there is already a pre-order for it?
There is for the vinyl and the CD, yeah.
All right, there
Yep.
we go. CD, interesting. I have been thinking a lot about records lately, that the form of music that most people buy is something that's 100 years old now. You know what I'm saying?
You
Everything
mean
else in the world has advanced except that, and I guess part of the reason is because Apple Music isn't trying to sell you music, right? They're trying to sell you a subscription. So they could
right?
care less what the music is or what it isn't. Do you have any thoughts on the industry, how it is? You're trying to put out a CD and an album. Is it tough in this day and age?
No, and in fact, for pre-orders for this one, I mean, for Leisure Suit, sales of physical product have been about half and half, CD and vinyl. Um,
Okay.
for this new one, I'd say 80% of 85% probably of the pre-orders are all wanting vinyl,
Okay.
um, which has been, it's thrilling to see. I think vinyl just surpassed CD for the first time again since 19 whatever, in terms
Mhm.
of global sales. So it's thrilling that people are want the full product on a platter that they can spin and sort of hold the album, like what we all did when we were young, hold the album cover and maybe clean your pot in it if it's a double record. Um,
Right.
so, how I see it, I mean, I have not been involved in the recorded side of the music business really
Right.
until the last 5 years or so. So I don't have a long-term perspective on that. But I mean, I think streaming is something, musicians bemoan to some degree. Um, for me, as a consumer of music, I actually have a Spotify subscription, and I use it every single day, and I discover music there, and I find old music there, and for me, it's a great service. I get that, it's taken a lot of revenue away from musicians, us included. So
But
double-edged
do you
sword,
feel
I
there's
suppose.
do you feel there's something lost for the consumer that I can go listen to Leisure Suit on Spotify with no commercials because I have a subscription, as opposed to I have a physical copy in my hand and I can turn it over and see your name and the lyrics or whatever happens to be on the back of it, you know?
For sure, yeah. I mean, I would always prefer that to be the case, but it's just not. And I'd much rather have people listening to us there than not listening to us. You
Right,
know,
right. Exactly. Hopefully they show up to the show, which we tell everybody all the time. You show up to the show, you buy the ticket, you buy the t-shirt, buy the album, something.
Absolutely, yeah. And people really get that. The showing up part nowadays is the hard part. I mean, I can't tell you how many club owners and festival producers I've talked to who are pulling their hair out because everybody's behavior as consumers of live music has changed since COVID, myself included.
Mhm.
I notice in myself and my wife, if it's a night when I don't have a rehearsal or a gig, it's really easy to put that pair of comfy pants on that I bought during COVID and stay home.
Yeah.
So I think we're all dealing with that, both the venues and the musicians. But the people that do come, by and large, do seem to want to support the band, buy merch,
Mhm.
sign up on we have an SMS list, text list where we send out sort of geographically pertinent info when we're coming back to town and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so I think the struggle now for venues and for festivals is just we need more people out, uh, experiencing live music again.
Right. Any thoughts on Skull and Roses? Did you hear about that?
Oh yeah, I heard about it.
I heard
Yeah,
about
it's
it from a lot of people too.
oh my God, yeah.
It's kind of
I
crazy.
mean, I don't know Chris, the organizer. I did have some interaction with them just in terms of trying to get Organ Fairchild on the lineup for a couple years. Yeah, no, it's horrific,
It's
and
crazy.
the fact that they had built into the language of on the ticket
No
purchase that there would be no refunds, right? So, but now everything I've been seeing online is saying that between Eventbrite and people just doing chargebacks on their credit cards. I think people do have recourse and can recoup their money, but still, like the bands, my friend Joe Marcinak, who I know you've talked to,
I
uh,
love Joe.
he was out all the money for his plane ticket. He never got a deposit. He's probably not going to see a penny in cancellation fees, and yet he spent out of his own pocket to get himself there. He had a whole band
Mm,
traveling there. It's like, man, and it ain't easy running a festival. I mean, again, like
yeah.
I go out of my way to talk to all the people that hire us and find out what's going on in their worlds
Mm.
and what they're seeing, and yeah, it's a tough climate. But boy, that seemed really botched for sure.
I I see somebody declaring bankruptcy sooner than later.
Yeah, you would think.
Oh my. All right, so let me ask you, the last album you have out, what are the hits? What are the songs that you feel like are really resonating with the crowd?
Well, I can only well, I guess I have a couple different ways to measure that. Spotify is the main way I can try to measure that. And what happened with Spotify is they picked it's very hard to get on one of their what's called their editorial playlists, which is basically there's editors at Spotify that curate certain playlists on the platform. Um, Most playlists are made by other users or by algorithms, but they do have an editorial playlist suite, as if you will, and
Mhm.
it's very hard to get on those. But every time you put out music, you can pitch one song to them, and so I've pitched songs every time we've ever put out music, and finally they bit on one of the songs on Leisure Suit. It's called Bobby Pins, and so they put it on their instrumental funk playlist alongside all of our heroes, Corey Wong and Herbie Hancock um,
Right.
Medeski, Martin, and Wood, and on and on and on. And so that song has completely taken off on Spotify because that playlist has hundreds of thousands of listeners. Um, Other than that, yeah, the song Leisure Suit, the song Morning Coffee, and the song Chamelonious Monk are the other three that seem to be getting a lot of traction in terms of listeners. And then we did have one cover tune on the Leisure Suit album. It's a version of the Grateful Dead's He's Gone. So that gets a
Okay.
lot of play as well.
Right.
And then live, people seem pretty open to like whatever. And I mean, there have been times when, if you feel like you want to throw the audience a bone, because, playing long sets of instrumental music where most of it's unfamiliar to people, um, there can be ear fatigue and you want to throw people something familiar every once in a while.
Right.
Um, and we've had situations where we do that and then people say, well, just, we want to hear your originals, which is
Mm,
just the
mm,
best, the best thing in the world to hear.
right. Would you wanna have a hit song? Like a real hit?
I mean, we don't sing. What kind of hit are we going to have? The theme from
Yeah,
Shaft?
right, like Peter Gunn, or I mean, there've been like
Right,
what, Soulful
right.
Strut by Young Holt Unlimited. I guess it's been 30 years since there was a actual instrumental hit, but
I
you know,
mean, would it be the worst thing in the world to have a hit? No, absolutely not. It'd be fantastic. It would open up doors in terms of performing live.
right.
We view ourselves as a live band. The
Mhm.
recordings are something, and we've gotten more fond of doing the recordings the more we've been working with Justin Gleep. But we've always viewed ourselves as a live band first and foremost, and the recordings are something you do to support that. Um,
Mhm.
so sure, yeah. If you wanna help
I'll
us
take it.
get our next hit. I mean, if anything, I could see some of our stuff ending up in what's called sync licensing, so
A
being used
movie,
for
yes. Yeah,
TV
TV
shows,
show.
movies. There's a lot of kind of atmospheric stuff or sort of groovier stuff that I could definitely see being the soundtrack
Right.
somewhere.
That's the way to go. Before AI beats you to it, within 5 years, AI will be doing it.
That's right.
So if I want to come catch some of this live, where am I going to be seeing you in the next month till festivals? Anything you can throw out?
We have a quiet April because we knew we'd be putting out the record. So starting early May, we're going to be out in Ohio and Indiana in the first weekend in May. We'll be in Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and then Kokomo, Indiana on that first weekend of May. And then the second weekend, we're back here in Buffalo. We're doing a show with Eggy, which we're really looking forward to. And the third weekend, we're heading to New England. We have shows in Albany, New York, Harmony, Maine at a festival, and way up in northern Vermont that weekend. And then as we get into June, we're going down to North Carolina, Pittsburgh. Everything's on the website. I mean, that's probably the best.
There'll be links. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
plenty. Are we getting a Beach Boys tease in Kokomo?
Nah, I think they probably get that all the time. It's a cool club. It's called the Coterie. And we played there with Joe Marcinek last fall.
Okay.
And so now we're going back with this band called Desmond Jones out of Michigan. So that should be a fun night. Columbus, we're going to be with a band called Yam Yam, who I don't know if you've talked to them.
Sax player. I love the sax in that band.
Yeah, same. Looking forward to hooking up with those guys. And then I know you're a big Spafford guy. In June, we're going to be doing a show with them in Rochester.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So,
Lot to look forward to.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, we will have links down in the bottom, and I'm sure that I will bother Dave again in the next 9 months, a year or something to come on because we love talking to Dave.
That'd be great. I love talking to you. I wanted to play you one little quick thing before we go.
Yeah.
I was in the practice room this morning, and you won't believe what came out. Can you hear this?
Huh? I love it. I'll have to play it for my friend Aaron.
I've heard it so many times listening to your podcast.
That song is something at one point back in 98, I guess. This guy Aaron, I knew, we were like, we should write a contemporary Christian hit song and we'll make a boatload of money and we can retire. And we ended up writing a bunch of songs like that. That piece of music is from something called Lynchpin that we wrote. So I mean, it never turned out we wrote the country. So I mean the Christian song.
I didn't know you were a musician. What do you play?
I don't play anything. I have a degree in poetry.
Okay.
That's what I've straddled with. I wrote the lyrics. He did everything else.
You're the lyricist we've been missing.
Right. There you go. There you go. Well, we will have to talk about that. All right. Let me run the outro, hang out so we can talk for a sec. Right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back sooner than later.